GEM International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109 carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior with a proven operator and finance team. GEM International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Jordan Bateman, the BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Welcome back to the show, Jordan.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jim.
BC Budget Day. Were you impressed? The good, the bad, the ugly. Give us the truth.
I was impressed. I came into the lockup a lot more skeptical this year than I did last year. Last year I came in hoping that they were going to do something big on MSP. It turned out they really fumbled the ball there a year ago. This year I came in within much lower expectations and was blown away that they were cutting them in half with an eye to actually phasing them out completely. This is something we've been calling for at the Taxpayers Federation for years. I've been working on this file, freedom of information requests, op-eds, research, media, all sorts of things, and was just pleased as punch to see the Liberals embrace it and finally deliver some really significant tax relief to BC taxpayers.
What other tax relief was there?
Well, here's one that's kind of interesting. So on the face of it, people won't really understand, maybe not understand what this actually means to them, but they're going to remove provincial sales tax from businesses and local governments who buy electricity, so off of their BC Hydro bills. Now, this is similar to something that's happened in Ontario. But what that actually does is it'll leave more money for employers to hire people, number one. But more interestingly to me as a taxpayers advocate, if local governments and school districts no longer have to pay PST on their electricity bills, these are huge consumers of power. I mean, think about the power it takes to cool down an ice arena or to heat a pool or to run a community center or all the different school facilities or the street lights. You buy a lot of power when you're in local government. This will actually save taxpayers some money, save municipalities some money, and I'm going to really try to push the municipalities to return that to taxpayers in the form of property tax relief. So it's one of those things that's kind of a step removed from taxpayers, the average taxpayer, but could actually make a good chunk of difference for a lot of us.
Of course, the opposition always criticizes the government. You wouldn't have had this big surplus if you hadn't been overcharging us in the first place.
Well, that's true. I mean, there's two ways for governments to have a surplus. One is more revenue than expected, and the second is controlling spending. Now, to the Liberals' credit, comparing them to the rest of the country, they do a much better job of controlling costs than the rest of government or the rest of the provinces. So you have to give them a little bit of credit there. And look, I don't think anyone expected the craziness of the real estate boom, like just the outrageous heights it got last year, which generated hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in property transfer tax. So those certainly added to the bottom line. But hey, to the Liberals' credit, look, we haven't had a significant broad-based tax cut since 2007 when Gordon Campbell cut income taxes by 10%. And so for the first time in a decade, thanks to this MSP promise, we have a chance at a major tax cut that will save taxpayers about $1 billion. This really is kind of Christy Clark's signature tax cut and probably the one she'll run on in this election.
Is there a cost limit or how much a family can earn before they get a break?
Yeah, so basically $120,000 is the magic number. So if your household nets $120,000 a year or more, you'll still be at the old MSP rate. There's no increase to it, but you'll be at the full run. If you're under $120,000, you'll be basically cut in half, and then there's different thresholds, but about $50,000 or so, you'll be down to zero. So there are, for people who make $120,000 as a family, that's a little bit touch and go. But the Liberals have said that they, plan to continue to do more work to try to phase this out over the coming years. So there is some hope down the road for those people.
Some people have also complained that if they had a surplus, why couldn't they increase staffing in BC care homes where 91% of them are understaffed?
Yeah, and then that's always the tension. I mean, they put several $100 million more into education in this budget. There was some more money for people with disabilities. There was some more money for the Ministry of Children and Families. To be honest, I can't remember off the top of my head what they did on the home care side of things. And I'll have to look at that maybe in our next weekly update. I can talk more in depth on that. But yeah, I'm a big supporter of home care for seniors because, it really saves, it saves taxpayers so much money not having seniors in hospital beds where you're paying, hundreds of dollars an hour to take care of them, and instead having them in home care or in care facilities where it's a fraction of that amount. You can just make the dollar go further. So, the more that we can do to pilot programs and try to get people out of the hospital into better care facilities, the better.
It always seems to me that when there are cuts in fees or taxes, it takes the government an awfully long time to implement them. Are these things going to be long in the tooth before they're implemented?
Yeah, so the MSP won't take effect till January 1st, 2018. Now, it's kind of a testament to how stupid and antiquated the MSP system is. Because we have a separate billing agency, people are actually going to have to apply for that discount. Simply because the MSP tax is collected in a different way than the income tax. So the MSP tax, you use a care card number, it's outsourced. It just doesn't talk to the income tax system, which of course is social insurance number based and has information held by Ottawa. So unbelievably, it's easier for people to, set up a new system for people to apply to get that discount as they try to get rid of MSP rather than try to design an expensive IT solution that can marry the two databases. So just goes to show you how stupid this tax is, how expensive it is to collect, and how glad British Columbians should be once we get rid of it.
Well, aren't they going to have to create a bureaucracy to take all these applications to lower the rate?
Well, they already have a MSP bureaucracy, so that'll be part of their job to do that. A bunch of people are also coming off the books because they've raised the threshold slightly for people to do MSP. There is already a system in place that does a lot of this. So, yeah, it's not perfect, definitely not ideal, but it gets us closer to the goal of getting rid of that tax altogether.
Are they going to run a lot of ads on TV costing us a lot of money telling us how to apply for a lower rate?
Yeah, well, that will be the interesting thing. I suspect there will be some TV ads, although it should be fairly simple to get a hold of people. Everyone or half the people get an MSP bill directly anyways, so one assumes that they'll be advertising within that MSP bill. And then for those who have an employer, they can reach out to the kind of the heads of the so-called group plans, the people whose employers collect. And by the way, if you're lucky enough to have an employer who pays the MSP on your behalf, you still get taxed on that. It's a taxable benefit. So even you, by having MSP reduced, are going to save money. You'll see a little bit of a bump to your weekly paycheck.
What would you have liked to have seen in the budget that wasn't there?
I would have liked to have seen better control on the debt side. So here's the rainstorm on the horizon. In 2007, the BC debt was about $33 billion. Today, it's $66 billion. And it's headed to $77 billion in 3 years. So over the next 3 years, they're going to add $1 billion a quarter, just a shade under that, to the debt every single quarter for 3 years. That is a cloud on the horizon. For the first time in any of these briefings I can remember, Mike DeYoung actually sounded just a little bit, not worried, but certainly not as Trudeau's sunny ways as he usually is when he talks about the debt numbers. Even he was saying that BC's close to the top end of where he feels comfortable. That may mean some important priorities need to be decided on. That debt does include a Massey Bridge. It does include the Site C Dam. So, there are some major projects there in that number, but still, you want to see that number coming down, not going up.
Does that mean if there are new bridges or new tunnels, you definitely will be paying a toll?
I think that's almost a given anyways. The government doesn't seem in any hurry to change that system. The more interesting thing is if Trudeau does carry through in the promise of millions of dollars, billions of dollars for SkyTrain to Arbutus and for light rail in Surrey, and the province has to match. How does that affect their bottom line? And you're getting very close to the point where credit ratings could get changed. The credit rating, interesting stat. If we had Ontario's credit rating, which is much lower than BC's, we'd be paying $2 billion a year more just in debt servicing. It would actually double our debt servicing costs. So that gives you a sense of just how important it is to keep that AAA credit rating in place.
I was going to say, it makes a nice figure. It's nice to talk about, and it actually means something. Yeah,
exactly. And, we throw it around, and we've had a AAA credit rating for so long in BC that, we forget that, look, only BC and Canada itself has a AAA credit rating. Canada is probably in danger of slipping with the Trudeau borrowing. Every other province has less than that, which means it costs them more to borrow money, and that's money that you're taking out of, school programs and other important things. So, for those of us who don't like to spend a lot of money on debt, we definitely want to keep that credit rating high.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after the break. Keep informed. Receive our weekly recap of thought-provoking articles, podcasts, and radio delivered to your inbox for free. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Jordan, does the BC government hide a lot of its revenue in fees on things like your hydro bill and or on BC Hydro itself or ICBC, so they can say we have one of the lowest tax rates in Canada, but then they claw it back because you have to pay more to go on a ferry or to visit a provincial park?
Yeah, that there is that argument. Now, BC Hydro and ICBC, both of them have saw their dividends reduced again this year. I think BC Hydro actually has now stopped giving a dividend to government. That is a problem. Most troubling, though, for me, and it's something that I've got to dig into more once we get past this kind of initial rush of news with the budget. ICBC is posting net losses again this year. That follows a loss last year, and they're projecting losses for the next 2 years, which means they did not turn a profit, which, kind of shocks you when you think a government monopoly can't turn a profit. There's definitely more digging we need to do into ICBC, and, now that I've gotten the Liberals to see the light on MSP, I suspect you'd probably get good odds. Bet on the idea that ICBC becomes a big thrust for the Taxpayers Federation going forward.
What about the province buying mass bulk amounts of prescription drugs so that people who take prescription medicines only have to pay the dispensing fee like they do in Saskatchewan?
Yeah, no change I saw there in the budget on that. A little bit more money for healthcare this time. And I think, although this document was printed before they signed the deal with the federal government on different increases, a little bit of money as well, although previously announced for the opioid crisis. But no, didn't seem to be any changes that I saw on pharmacare.
Overall, what kind of a grade would you give the BC government for its budget?
Well, I'd give them an A. It's been so long since we've had this kind of strong tax relief, and we really believe this MSP system is so antiquated and out of date and unfair. We're really pleased to see that we've convinced Minister de Jong to cut in half and hopefully look to actually get rid of it completely. So, look, credit where credit's due. When they cut taxes, and we're the Taxpayers Federation, we want to leave more money in people's pockets. You got to give them an A for that effort.
Of course, will Christy Clark claim credit for by the time the election is called? My real estate consultant, Ross Kay, says British Columbians will have lost $340 billion in their real estate investments.
Yeah, it'll all depend on what ridings those are, if they're in swing ridings, if people are actually okay with losing a little bit of equity that way, since they shot up so quickly. Were they borrowing against that equity? There's certainly a lot of concern on that horizon. It would not surprise me to see recession occur in the next couple of years, especially given some of the stuff that's coming out of the United States. I think they're going to become much more economically competitive, and I think they're going to make it more difficult for U.S. companies to do business in Canada. Those are both bad pieces of news for British Columbia, but we'll have to wait and see.
Jordan, thanks a lot for taking the time out of a very busy day for you.
Hey, my pleasure.
My guest has been Jordan Bateman, the BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. His website, taxpayer.com. You're listening to the Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Questions for the show can be emailed to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.